Good evening, children of God. My name is Chukwemeka with the Igbo Hebrews. Brothers and sisters, today I want to talk about the Osu system to explain it. The Osu system that we have in Igboland. You see, let me give you an idea of how I started this journey. I'm someone who is very fond of history. I read about people, different people, the history of different people, and I try to correlate them with things I've known before. I started this from very early in life, but I spent a whole lot of resources getting books, going to different places just to find out about any information I can. So I decided at some point when I was a teenager, I decided to study Igbo culture, to understand the culture of my fathers, the way my ancestors lived, and how and why they live the way they are. And I came to this very glaring conclusion. You cannot understand Igbo culture without understanding the Bible. If you try to, brothers and sisters, and again, I put this as a challenge to anyone. If you try to understand or explain Igbo culture without biblical reference, you will fall short all the time. You will not make sense even to yourself. And this video I want to do today is a perfect example of that. Now, the Osu system in Igboland, for the benefit of those who are not Igbos, there is something we call the Osu system. Okay, so for benefit of brothers and sisters who are not Igbos, let me explain the Osu system. Someone is called an Osu if that person goes and dedicates himself to any idol in the land. In Igbo villages today, there are many idols. Idols are called alosi. That's what idols are called. If you see my videos, the literal interpretation of alosi means abomination. That's what alosi means. If you see my videos, you will realize that that is exactly what the Bible calls idols. It calls them abomination. Now, in Igbo villages, there are hundreds of alosi, different alosi that different people over time have brought to their communities. Alosi did not exist in Igbo culture in those days. Now, if someone goes to any of the alosi and dedicates himself to that alosi, most times people do this for protection. They feel that people are against them. You feel that the whole world is against you, or you feel that things are not going the way you want it to go. Sometimes their reasons could be valid, but when they go and dedicate themselves to this alosi for protection, maybe they feel they need to be protected, and they go and dedicate themselves to idols, they become an Osu automatically. Their relations will announce to the entire community that these people have done this. They become an Osu. What that means is that that person that goes to dedicate himself to that idol, that person is ostracized from the community. The community tries to cut the person off. We minimize any interaction with that person. We don't marry into his or her family. We try not to marry into his or her family, and we try not to have a whole lot of social interactions. That does not mean that the person cannot go and visit or have relations or even be buried when they die, but we try to minimize this. This is what goes on in Igbo communities. Now, if you sit down and ask yourself, why were Igbos practicing this? That was the question I asked myself. I tried to study it. And brothers and sisters, you cannot understand this practice in Igbo land until you open your Bible and read it. A lot of people have tried to explain Osu system. None of them, it doesn't. In fact, if you read the book, somebody who wrote the forward in the book by Professor Alezi, the explanation he gave for Osu system was so ridiculous. I couldn't even believe that it was an educated person that was writing this, and I don't blame him. When you try to explain Osu system outside of the Bible, that's where you're going to end up. The book by Professor Dr. Elizabeth Isiche did not even bother to try to explain the origin of that practice. So if you try to explain this practice outside of the Bible, you will not. Now, brothers and sisters, what I explained the Osu system now, anybody who have read the Bible will identify it. You see, in Igbo culture in those days, there was no such thing as alosi. People I really want Igbo people to ask questions. Where does the alosi come from? Most of these masquerades you see in Ato, Agaba, all those ones, they were never in Igboland before. Those things came from communities around Igbo. Most of them came from Igala. So as someone from Anambra State myself, a lot of Igbo civilization around where I come from in Anambra State is influenced by the Igalas. If you go down to somewhere in Abia State, a lot of the tradition they have there is influenced by the Ibibios. So most of the idols, most of the alosi they have there comes from the Ibibios. For instance, if you go to a community like Arochukwu, most of the alosi they have there is, they have what you call the Ekbe cult. Ekbe is clearly an Ibibio name. If you go to Delta Igbo communities, most of the idols they have there comes from Benin. They originally were not Igbo. In fact, if you tell a person, look, I'll go and report you to Alosi, you say, Meje pata alega Alosi. What that means is that I'll go and bring Alosi for you. What does that tell you? If you study the etymology, you go and bring something. That means the Alosi is not on ground. It's something that is being brought. Also, children of God, also, for you to know that these idols never existed in Igbo land, go and read the book by Olaudah Ekwonu. Again, that book by Olaudah Ekwonu, especially the first 50 something pages, explained Igbo culture the way it was before it was tainted. Go, brothers and sisters, please go and read. I don't sell the book, I don't make money from the book, but I would recommend everybody should have that book. And I do hope it remains in print. In that book, he said, he explained how we do our cultural activities, how we dance. For he said that we are a nation of poets and dancers. Poetry in Igboland is called Imambem. Dancing in Igboland is called Igbo. And he explained that this is how we dance. The men will dance separately, the women will dance, the children will dance, the young girls, and it's a joyful occasion. And these are carried over in most of our dances today. Dances like Etiologo, Ahunecheni, all those kind of dance are reminiscent of what Olaudah Ekwonu mentioned in his book. There was no mention of masquerade in his book. None whatsoever. Today, if you see people doing Igbo culture, they bring masquerade up and down, they think that's their culture. They don't know that these things were brought in after the colonial era started, after the slavery period started. There was no mention of any masquerade in Olaudah's book. For someone, an Igbo person, to write about how we danced, how we celebrated things, and not mention masquerade, that is a significant thing to lay aside. That tells you that the masquerade were not there. If you have this knowledge and go and ask your elders, they will tell you where these masquerades come from. They all came from neighboring communities around us. They were never here before. So I challenge every Igbo person that's listening to me, go and find out this thing and try to prove me wrong. So these idols, these alosi you're seeing, they were never here before. They were never here. So when we do alosi, do idols, do masquerade, we shouldn't say we are doing Igbo tradition, because we are not doing that. That is not the Igbo tradition. If you understand how Igbo culture was when these idols were being brought from neighboring communities, this mostly happened when the Levitical order in Igboland were destroyed. I have shown in most of my videos, during the slave trade, the Levitical order in Igboland was specifically targeted. That is why they destroyed all our places of worship. Our places of worship where we have groves and everything, they destroyed it completely because they targeted our Levitical priests. Okay, now this Levitical order, after it was destroyed, there was a vacuum in the community. So people were bringing idols from neighboring communities into Igbo land. So what did our ancestors do? Our ancestors tried to discourage our members from going to these idols, from dedicating themselves to these idols, from worshiping these idols. And that is the origin of the Osu system in Igboland. There is no other place in this planet where you go and worship the God of the land and the people of the land will ostracize you. There is no other people in this world that does that. That tells you that these gods, this Alosi you're seeing, they are not the original God of the people. Osu system was created to ostracize those who did not worship the God of Abraham, but instead left to go and worship the abominations of the people around us. That is the origin of the Osu system, brothers and sisters. I know people will hate me for saying that the Osu system, implying that the Osu system is good, but it is true. It is a good thing. It is what our ancestors did to protect our worship of the one true God. Brothers and sisters, let's go to the Bible, because the churches were the first people that abolished the Osu system in our communities. Because after the people that are called Osu were ostracized, when Christianity came, they were among the first to convert to Christianity. Most of the people that are Osu are among the first in every community to convert to Christianity. Most of the people that converted, brothers and sisters, most of the people that converted to Christianity, early converts to Christianity, were Osu people, because they have been ostracized in the community. That's why they quickly converted to Christianity the moment that came up. And the Christians say we should stop it. Now let's go to the Bible and see where that was clearly stated. Brothers and sisters, follow me to the book of Deuteronomy chapter 13. Let's read the book of Deuteronomy chapter 13. And if you read from Deuteronomy chapter 13 verse 6 and look at what the Most High told our ancestors to do, it says, if thy brother, the son of thy mother, or thy son, or the daughter, or thy daughter, or the wife of thy bosom, or thy friend, which is thy own soul, entice thee secretly, saying, let us go and serve other gods, which thou hast not known, thou nor thy fathers, namely of the gods of the people which are round about you, nigh unto thee, or far off from thee, from one end of the earth even unto the other end of the earth. Thou shalt not consent unto him, nor hearken unto him, neither shall thy eye pity him, neither shalt thou spare him, neither shalt thou conceal him, but thou shalt surely kill him. Thy hand shall be the first upon him to put him to death, and afterwards the hand of all the people. Brothers and sisters, this Bible verse I've read now is the origin of the Osu system in Igboland. The Most High made it very clear. Remember, I explained to you that if somebody goes and dedicates themselves to any of the idol, it's usually their relation that announce to the people that this person has gone to dedicate himself to Ngene, or has gone to dedicate himself to Amadioha. And the Bible made it very clear that if thy brother, the son of thy mother, and this is very important, brothers and sisters, this is how you know that it's Igbo that we are talking about, because in Igbo land, the word for brother is son of my mother. One name, that's what brother means, son of your mother. And the Bible made it clear here, if the son of thy mother or any other person that is related to you entice you to go and worship other God, do not go and do not spare the person. Our ancestors, if for instance now, if my grandfather's brother goes to dedicate himself to any of the idols, my grandfather will know, and he will be the one to announce it to the community that this is what my brother has done, and then he and his family will be ostracized. He and his descendants after him will be ostracized. So, but when they talk about Osu, if you read about Osu, maybe you go to the internet or you read books about Osu, they call it a caste system. A caste system, brothers and sisters, means that you are born into a separate fodder. You and your family, you are all separate, you are inferior. Osu is not a caste system. If me and my brother are living together in the community and I go and dedicate myself to an idol, I will be the one ostracized. My brother will not be. Me and my generations will be the one ostracized. And this was done by our ancestors, not because they want to feel elite, not because they want to intimidate people, but because they want to discourage people from worshiping the gods of the lands that were being brought to Igbo land. A lot of things were happening in Igbo land in those days. If you don't understand it, you will not understand what Igbos were going through. A lot of influence was going on. According to the book of Alauda, the Benin Kingdom had a lot of influence on the Igbo people up to the River Niger. The Igala Kingdom had a lot of influence on the Igbo people from the north. The Efik Kingdom also had a lot of influence. So there were a lot of idols being brought into Igbo land as at that time. Our ancestors had to protect the nucleus of our community by starting this Osu system, which ostracizes members. And you can read that clearly in the Bible. I see a lot of people go to the internet and call Igbo people all kinds of names, or say that Igbo people are idol worshippers or whatever for practicing Osu system. But they don't know that this is clearly in the Bible. This Osu system is what sets Igbo people apart from every other people in the world. There's no other people that does this. So, brothers and sisters, what's the implication of this? The implication of this is that those of us who were not born Osu, we are now Osu. Why are we Osu? Because we've gone to worship Jesus. We have gone to worship one white man that they brought to us. That makes us Osu. That makes us Osu. Whether we like it or not, that's what it is. In those days, brothers and sisters, in those days, if you study Igbo history, in those days, when Christianity came into our land, the people that converted to Christianity were also ostracized like the Osu people. If you convert to Christianity in those days, you were ostracized. It's because Christianity came with the colonial powers and they were pushing Christianity to us, and so it became accepted into the community then. But the initial people that converted to Christianity were also considered Osu and were ostracized. Go and find out, brothers and sisters. Go, if you don't believe me, go and find out. Go and read the book by Chinua Achebe called Things Fall Apart. Go and read the book by Chinua Achebe where Okonkwo's son converted to Christianity to spite Okonkwo. It was actually an embarrassment to his family that he left the God of his ancestors to go and follow the Christians. Go and read that book. That is the Igbo culture in those days. My parents did not born me on Osu, but since I have gone to worship a white God, I am now on Osu. All I need to do is to ask the Most High for forgiveness. Brothers and sisters, the solution to this Osu is very simple. The Most High made it very clear that He visits the sins of the father up to the 4th generation. So what that means is that if you are of the family that is Osu today, the chances are that you are no longer being visited by the anger of the Most High because you are more than the 4th generation of whoever went to dedicate himself to that idol. And even if you are not born Osu, the fact that you went and worshipped a white man means that you are now on Osu because you've gone to worship a foreign god. That's what it means. So, you see, when I got married and some elders in my community were like, oh, we have to go and check if my wife is Osu. And then I was like, it's not necessary. It's not necessary. And one of the elders told me, it's necessary. It's necessary. Of course, he didn't quote the Bible for me. He's not a Christian. He doesn't read the Bible. But when I started reading the Bible, I understood this. This is where the Osu system comes from. That is the only explanation that makes sense. If you see any other Osu explanation that makes sense, let me hear it. None whatsoever. There's somebody I saw on the internet that said that Osu people are formed when you capture slaves from war and then you dedicate them to your God. There's no such thing. It never happened in Igboland. People will just get up in the morning and lie on top of our culture. You see, there's something they call the Oru in Igboland. Oru means slave. That's the word for slave in Igboland. Oru. Okay? If someone is a prisoner of war, he is your slave. According to in Igbo culture, your slave should be freed after 7 years. That is the Igbo culture. After 7 years, your slaves should be freed. So some people, because of war and because of the maybe they got lost or maybe they were kidnapped or something, they became slaves to other people. After 7 years, they are freeborn in the community. They can do anything in the community. They are part of the community. This is in the Bible. Go and read Deuteronomy chapter 15. It's still the same Igbo practice. In fact, when I was young, people used to go and do boy boy for people. They usually stay maximum 7 years. That same boy is some form of slavery. When, like, let's say somebody is selling motor parts, like my father was selling motor parts, then he had people that were selling for him, that were doing boy for him, and of course my father didn't take up to 7 years to settle them, but it was maximum 7 years. Somebody will work for you. After that, you settle the person. This is a carryover from what our ancestors did. If somebody is your slave, somebody was working for you, or you bought somebody over in those days, slavery was being done in those days. After 7 years, that person is set free. If somebody is owing you, the person cannot pay you. After 7 years, that debt is forgiven. All this is in the book of Deuteronomy chapter 15. All this is what our ancestors did. Our ancestors also did Osu system, in which they ostracized those who worship idols. And today, people will carry the Bible and tell me that our ancestors are wrong for ostracizing those who worship idols. Are you seriously kidding me? Brothers and sisters, do not listen to these people who twist your tradition. Learn your tradition. Understand your tradition. Your ancestors, is true, they did not discover how to make aeroplanes. They did not discover how to make motor cars. But they were not stupid people. They have reasons for what they did. You owe them that respect to study what they did and understand it. And like I said, you cannot properly understand Igbo culture if you don't understand the fact that we are the people of the Bible. People have tried to explain Igbo culture outside of the Bible and they have not been successful. But if you understand that the Bible is our book that after we ran out of the Middle East, it was captured by some people. Those people transcribed it, stole our identity, and are now claiming to be us. If you understand that we are the people that the book is talking about, you understand why our ancestors practiced Osu system. What is the solution for Osu system? If you are Osu, you're born into Osu, or you've been worshiping a white man, please, brothers and sisters, return to the God of Abraham. Return to Chukwu Abiyama. Return to the God of your ancestors. Worship the God of your fathers. That is how you cancel the Osu system in your system, in your life. The book of Ezekiel tells us that every man will answer for himself. Now, if you return and turn away from what your ancestors did, you are no longer liable for that. But do not believe the people that will tell you that your ancestors were wrong for ostracizing those who worship the idols that were being brought into our communities. Do not believe that. And may the Most High of Majesty bless you. Salam.